Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rob, this is RH Midwest Comics, and today I've got a fun one. 'Tis the season, Halloween is upon us. This is going to be the top 10 pre-code horror comic books from the Golden Age. And as you know, if you follow me, whether it's here on YouTube or on Instagram, you know I love horror comics, whether it's Bronze Age or pre-code horror. But today we're focusing on pre-code horror, so essentially from the 50s, maybe even getting a little bit into the late 40s as well. And this is the tough thing about pre-code horror books, is there are way more than 10. Way more. Even if we did a top 50 list, there would be people out there that say, you missed this book, you missed that book, you missed this one. So I'm sure by limiting it to the top 10, I'm going to upset some people, because I may not have your book, one of your favorite books or some of your favorite books on the list. Regardless, we're going to get into it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it at the end. Leave me some comments. So let's get into it, but first I'm going to give some honorable mentions, okay? So I've got a small handful of honorable mentions, and then we'll get into the top 10. So the first honorable mention is Fight Against Crime number 20. This is from Story Comics back in 1954. I don't know who the cover artist is on this, but it is a very classic decapitation cover. And there's another decapitation cover that I hold a little bit closer to my heart, so maybe we'll see that one a little later. But this one is definitely gained some momentum over the years. I mean, it's pretty brutal, right? You see the guy, you know, with the severed head, and he's getting ready to dispose of the body and the head in the sewer, it looks like, and the cops are showing up, and so he's pretty much caught red-handed there. But anyway, great horror cover, crime/horror cover. Just not quite beholden to me enough to put it on the top 10. Okay, the next honorable mention is Underworld Crime number 7. This is a really great cover. Classic hot poker cover. And you see the bad guys there, gangsters are getting ready to, well, they're threatening the woman with the hot poker, and her whatever boyfriend or husband's in the background, and he's mortified back there. And again, there are more than one hot poker cover in the pre-code age. So this one didn't quite make it to the top 10 list. Will we see another one later on the list? Maybe. We'll see. Okay. The other honorable mention, so I have two more, right? The other honorable mention I wanted to bring up was another real crime magazine, Punch Comics number 12. Unbelievable classic skull cover. Publisher was Harry H. Hessler. This is a Gus Rica cover, and it's from 1945. So this is really slightly before horror comics started, so that's why I kind of kept it out of the horror genre. I think it's more crime related, but of course with the skull, I've seen lots of people put it onto their horror list, and it's a great cover. Really expensive book, so that's why I wanted to at least get it on honorable mentions. But I think of it more of like crime, especially because it was from 1945. So regardless, great cover, and good luck trying to afford one of those. Next one, Venus number 19 from Atlas Comics in 1952. Bill Everett cover. Bill was great with so many different horror covers in the 50s. This is classic, as classic as they come, right? And Venus is not a cheap title by any means. Interesting thing about this is Bill Everett not only did the cover, but he wrote the story and he did the interior art as well. I don't know if anyone else helped with the interior art, but he did all of it. This is like his book. So pretty interesting. And it's also the last issue in the series, or in the title. So great book. I've never owned that one either. Majority of these I haven't owned. I've owned some of them before. But that's it for the honorable mentions. 4 great books. And again, right, I could have had, since I'm going to get into the top 10 here, there could have been 30 or 40 other books I could have put as honorable mentions, but trying to keep the video somewhat succinct here. All right, so let's get into it. Top 10. My first one, meaning number 10, is Amazing Mysteries number 32 from Atlas Comics in 1949. Again, don't know who the cover artist is on this one, but this one is interesting. A lot of people don't have this one on their lists, and I don't see this as like one of the best covers ever. I don't look at the cover and go, oh my gosh, that's like a masterpiece. But this is the first Marvel horror comic that was made back in 1949. All right, this numbering of this series is the first issue of Amazing Mysteries, but it took over for Submariner Comics. So Submariner went up to issue 31. Then at issue 32, they called it Amazing Mysteries, and they started working into the horror genre. And it looks like just a bunch of lemmings that are walking up this mountain into a fire-breathing kind of head. And I'm assuming all these people burn and don't come back. That's why it's called the Isle of No Return. But anyway, that's the significance of this book. Maybe not the best cover ever, but because it's the first Marvel horror comic, I thought it was important to get it on the list. All right? Coming in at number 9. Everyone's going to know these covers, right? All the rest of these are pretty well known and grails for a lot of people. Chamber of Chills number 23 from Harvey Publications, 1954. The talented Lee Elias. Lee's going to be on this list a few different times. And this is the classic zombie trying to, I don't know if he's trying to kiss the woman there or what, but she's trying to get away, and she's got handfuls of him that are just falling apart if she's trying to defend herself. But just a classic cover. Chamber of Chills number 23. We may see another Chamber of Chills a little bit further down the list here. All right, that was number 9. Coming in at number 8. Astonishing number 30. Another one from Atlas in 1954. This is Saul Brodsky as the cover artist. And this is the famous melting flesh off the bones cover. You can see the eyes just peering at this guy, and I don't know if that's an alien or a monster or some kind of a demon, but clearly things did not work out for this guy as soon as this thing put his eye lasers on him. So pretty gruesome cover, cemetery cover as well. Classic for sure. All right, coming in at number 7, Lawbreakers Suspense Stories number 11. From Charlton Comics, 1953. It's a Lou Morales cover, and this one's pretty gruesome. You see this this guy in the cover here, and he's holding a bunch of severed tongues. And what he's talking about in the little caption is that this woman, who apparently can't talk either, he's basically saying we don't have to worry about anybody calling the police, anyone that's in the house, because he's cut all their tongues out, so no one can talk. So, pretty gruesome. You see tongues falling out of his hand, blood dripping off of them. Really vivid. So, a great one coming in at number 7. Here we go to issue number 6. This is Eerie Comics number 1 from Avon. We're going back to the 40s on this one, 1947. It's a Joe Kubert cover, and this is arguably the first horror comic that was ever made. You can see the girl in the cover there. She's all tied up, and I think that's a Nosferatu type of guy that is coming up on her. Pretty terrifying. So, was it the first horror comic book ever? I know there's some debate out there. Very classic cover. These are all classic, right? So you're going to hear me say that a lot here. All right, so Eerie Comics number 1 coming in at number 6. So coming in at number 5 is Tomb of Terror number 15, another Harvey publication book, another Lee Elias cover. This is the classic exploding face and the woman looking in horror. And 1954, so right in the middle of all this, all these horror comics coming out. So Lee Elias seemed to do some great stuff with faces. So that might be a hint as to something coming up a little later. All right. Great cover, very graphic, very vivid. That's number 5. Here we go, number 4. This one creeps me out, I think, more than any of the others. This is Mr. Mystery number 12 from Aragon Publications back in 1953. It's a Bernard Bailey cover. And this is, we talked about the hot poker covers earlier in the honorable mentions. Well, I didn't want to have 2 hot poker covers in the top 10. And this one just hits me a little bit differently than that other one, because the other one was more of like a threat, but this one is like that hot poker is going into this guy's eye, right? And there's nothing he can do about it. Pretty terrifying. Bernard Bailey, I don't know what other covers he did in the horror genre. I probably need to look that up. But this is the one I know of that is his most famous in terms of horror. So that is number 4. Let's move on to number 3, and it is the only EC book that we have on the list here, Crime Suspense Stories number 22. Beautiful Johnny Craig cover from 1954. And if you remember, in the honorable mentions part of the video, I talked about one of the books that had a decapitation. And I, again, right, just like the hot poker, I didn't want to have 2 decapitation covers in the top 10. So I chose this one. I'm a huge EC fan. I think this one is by far their most notable horror comic. I really had to restrain myself from putting a bunch of EC books on this list. But when I really stepped back and looked at, all the work that was done in the 50s on horror, there was just too much out there. So there it is on the list at number 3, Crime Suspense Stories number 22. Here we go, moving on to number 2, Chamber of Chills 19. I told you there'd be another one, and it's another book from Harvey, and it's another book from Lee Elias in 1953. This one, the classic, skeleton guy, dead guy presumably holding his drink and looking through it and looking at his wife on their anniversary and seeing her skeleton as well. But this book also became very, very popular because the Misfits, the band, back in 1984, used this image as their album for Die Die My Darling. And I'm not a big Misfits fan. I know a little bit about them. But I did not realize until a few years ago when, I don't remember who it was that said it, but I saw it somewhere and made the connection. So very cool that they did that, and that's why this one has a little bit more of a larger customer base, because you have people even outside of comics that are interested and have bought this comic because they're such big Misfits fans. Misfits have a huge following. So there we go. That's number 2. And we are moving on to our final book, and it is Black Cat Mystery Comics number 50 from Harvey, 1954. Another Lee Elias cover. So Lee Elias, number 9, number 2, and now number 1 on the list. The melting face and hands from the guy that was holding the radium. Famous white heat cover. Just what else can you say about it? Lee Elias, right? He's really good at doing things with heads and faces, right? And just making them so graphic. I think he's got some teeth melting away too. So that's number 1. Great way to end the list. And that's it. So there you have it. My top 10 for this year, at least in 2023, of the top pre-code horror comics in the world. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, right, there are 20, 30 other books that I know everybody loves out there that I love as well. And who knows, next year when I do this again, maybe the list will look differently. I'm sure it will, for one reason or another, as things grow on people. For one reason or another, they move up on their list. But that's it. Please leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know which one you think should have been number 1 if you don't agree with my list, or maybe a really good book that didn't make the list at all that you wish would have been on there. All right, so I hope you enjoyed it. Happy Halloween to everyone. Until next time, have a great day.